Hello, welcome to Tuesday. I'm glad to see everybody today. It is a gray and rainy day where I am, so I am most especially happy to be here with you guys today, talking some shop talk. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk client Q&A. We haven't done this in a while. Hey, Gary, I'm so glad you're here. We haven't done this in a while where I just open up the platform for all of your questions, all of your client concerns, all of the shop talking. We've been sort of on my agenda for a while. So this was always a fun opportunity for me to be, if you will call it hot seated, to answer your questions, but mostly just to walk you through how would I approach the client question that you have. Um, so I'll just start by saying any client question is okay, even if it's not something you're currently working on, but maybe it's someone you were working with. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Perry. I'm glad you're here. Um, and I can't solve it if I'm not in the room with you. However, I know we can solve it together and probably identify a place. Hey, Cheryl, glad you're here, that you hadn't considered before. Or maybe you just want confirmation that what you did was like thorough, right? So the way these work, the way these client Q&A work is you give me as much information as compact as you can and wait for me to ask you a question back because there's probably some information I'm going to need from you to be able to get you with the answer. And that sounds sort of formal and all the things. You could also just ask your question. Like it doesn't have to be like by a script. Hey, Natasha, I'm glad you're here. However it is that you want to go about getting your client questions answered for today, we can go with it. The more concise you are, the easier it is for me to get you to that answer. And again, I just want to make sure I say this out loud. None of the information I'm going to give you is a to-do list. So we want to be really careful about that. You guys shouldn't be getting advice from anybody, by the way, like that. If I know some of you are on other, maybe, or some of you are on other channels, on other social platforms, and it's really tempting to be like, ooh, I'm going to try that. Out of context, guys, like out of context. So, use your information thoughtfully the way you do. And you know that that's how I roll here over in the Shots Method corner of the world. We do strategic thinking. So we're wildly skilled with tons of tools and we think our way through it. So most of the Q&A will be, how would I think about it? What are you thinking about? And then you probably have tools that you can address. So any question that you have is fair game. I'm just giving you that sort of preview starting point because I don't know that how many of you have been here for Q&A before. It's been a while since we've done an open Q&A. Gary, I think you were here, but no, you don't even remember. It's been a minute. Yeah, we used to just do I think once or twice a month we would just do open Q&A, which I love. And like I said, I've been sort of on an agenda. I wanted you guys to have some real good functional anatomy for the last few months. It felt important to me. So don't worry about it. You're not performing. It's nothing like that. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a, how do I ask the question? What's the format? And just ask the question and I'll probably ask you a question back before I give you a straight up answer. And we'll probably workshop it together. And that's how it goes. Please feel free to ask whatever it is that you have on your mind. This is not a place to be nervous or held back or, reserved in any way. I promise you it won't hurt. I'll be super kind. But I know that you guys are working on stuff. And I know that you're working on important client cases, and I can tell because you're here every week. And I know the content I have been laying out for you for the last few months, and it's pretty like focused clinical work. So I know that you're up to that. So please feel free to bring your questions, and I promise you I will get you some clarity in our time together today. That's literally what we're doing today. Open platform client Q&A. Just wanted to let you know that. We have worked, I think it was 6 weeks on Sacrum, which I'm not unhappy about. We're currently running our Sacred Sacrum course live as we speak. We meet twice a week, once for our training and then once for our study group. The study groups I've heard have been just as valuable as the training themselves, which just lights me up. And it's one of the benefits of having the course running live rather than watching it on Evergreen, by yourself. But of course, all of you who are here in that course, you will have it on Evergreen forever. That's the ever part of Evergreen. For those of you who are joining for the first time or maybe even catching us on a replay and you found us on the internet, I'm so glad that you're here also. We are talking shop talk today for manual and movement practitioners, specifically today on client work, client Q&A. And every week that we meet, It's something about working as a practitioner, as a body worker, if you will, because that's what I still do after 31 years. And I'm also committed to supporting you guys with the same information and success that I know you're searching for and that I love having and sharing with my clients too. So welcome to everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's dive in. Q&A. I'm sure you have questions. The questions can be about a client that you're working with, a result you're searching for, or even anything about anatomy. If you're looking to use your anatomy to solve the client question, even better. I say that a lot to you guys. Well, what does the anatomy tell us about this question that we have on the table? The answer is usually in the anatomy. Sometimes we need to look at it in a, different lens. But the anatomy is also part of client solving, knowing the anatomy and the functional anatomy. So any question that you want, I'm open for it. I love this. It gets me a little bit like, whoo, because I'm hot seated. You guys are asking me questions. I got to know the answers, and I promise you will get to an answer. So you got one, Cheryl?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny because I just posted this on the Pod 5 group, okay, and for some of the advocates as well. So
okay, pause for just a second. For those of us who are here, what's Pod 5 group? What's this? So Cheryl's in our mastery program. We love having you. So those who are training in the SHOTS method, they each have pods, and then we have a bigger sort of radius of support outside of that, which are anatomy advocates who've all graduated and are second level graduates and working clinically. And so what Cheryl just said was, I posted it there, and now I'm bringing it here. So if you guys were like, I want to be included there, please come be included. That's where that was posted. Okay, Cheryl, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to read what I wrote, if that's okay, because it's sure. What I have found actually with writing things out, it actually helped me to workshop it in my own head.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that I have figured it out yet, but I kind of go through, I mean, you'll see. Okay. Excuse me. Oh gosh, now I'm channeling the frog.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, I have a client who for the past few weeks has had a persistent pain just below her iliac crest on her right side. Mm-hmm. I was originally guessing that it was glute med or maybe like the upper fibers of the glute max. She feels it most when she's first waking up in the morning or like after sitting for long periods of time. She does work a lot at her computer. So she sits for a long periods of time. Nothing she can remember doing. She just woke up one day with this pain. Mm-hmm. She always feels better after she moves. So I've continued to work with her with movement and working even those muscles, that muscle group, doing Pilates with her, some stretching as well, and working again that muscle group again. Mm-hmm. So I have went through with her like apex sitting on on her sit bones. So she understands that. I remind her about that. I went through her sleeping habits with her because she's a side sleeper. So I talked to her about, trying to transition to her back. And if she is a side sleeper or if she continues to sleep on her side, some things that she can do to help keep her curves in proper alignment, which she is doing now. And she said she's trying to transition to more on her back, and that does help. She is hypermobile. She's 11 out of 11. So she's super hypermobile. Mm-hmm. I did some foam rolling with her, and she actually said that it did help relieve. Like we did the TFL, and then I did adductor complex as well. So then after some thought, after writing this through, I was like, okay, well, let's consider referral pain. If it's, it's likely that it's not coming from the glutes, mm-hmm. right? So then I was thinking, okay, so then what can cause that? And I was thinking, well, if she's laying on her side, it could be QL, I was thinking, and that attaches right at the iliac crest. So thinking maybe there's some relationship there. Perhaps, it's pulling up on one side. One of my pod mates had mentioned to me, well, does she sit and cross her legs a lot? Because that could be also something that's contributing to this. So then I thought, okay, well, if it is QL, maybe one side is shortened, so maybe I can try some PNF on that one side with her to see if we can maybe lengthen that, because maybe it's pulled up and shortened. So I did do that with her, PNF stretch with her on her QL, just to see if that would make a difference too. And now she's saying that it comes and goes. It's not all the time. It is subsiding, but it's, it is still there, but it's not as persistent. So.
Okay. So did you read to us everything you wrote?
She gets better with movement. I am working on stability with her and strength because she is hypermobile. So I do continue to work with that on her. I think, yeah, I think that's everything I wrote.
Okay, so you wrote all that out and then you got responses?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, nothing that really helped me to go any further, to look any further, other than, about the crossing the legs.
Okay, got it. So your question then is, what did I hear in your share from your client's body in places you could look?
Yeah. Like, am I missing something? Where do I look? I mean, am I looking in the right places?
Okay, I love this question. Am I looking in the right places? That is like the golden question, isn't it? Because we know that in
and I have
order,
so much.
okay, good. Great job. So we know that in order to alleviate the pain in someone's body, we've got to find the genesis. And the reason we've got to find the genesis is because, as you mentioned, Cheryl, 90% of the pain is referred from somewhere else. So we could spend not 100% of our time not getting to the genesis and then not actually solving it. So we know we've got to get to the genesis. And that is the reason we use strategic thinking. We got to know how to think our way through that. We've got to follow the body, the effects that the body's movement had on the body, the effects that the non-movement had on the body. We got to follow all of that, like literally like we're telling the story of what the body's experience was. And in order to do that, you've got to have the anatomy so that you could follow the dots and connect what that means. So one of the things, yeah.
I'm sorry. One thing I forgot to mention, because I'm trying to keep track of all my thoughts. So I like wrote everything down. And also I am considering the psoas as well, because of the fact that she sits a lot. And if she's a side sleeper, again, it's probably the psoas is in a shortened position. So I did also go through some lengthening of the psoas with her as well.
Okay, awesome. I love what you're doing with figuring out what muscles it might be. You're about to dive into that right now. Also, Cheryl, in the stage that you're in mastery, we're diving into probable cause. So it's when the muscles go wrong, how do they behave? How do I pinpoint what that is? And then what do I do about it? So you're right there. It's like perfect timing for you. I kind of love this for you. I know it's frustrating to not have the answer, but you're right there. We said that last week in training. We're always like, our clients are 2 steps ahead of where we are because we're on that learning track and their subconscious knows that. So it's actually perfect for you. And the key is then to have support to find the answer. So sometimes, if we have clients that come 2 steps ahead of where we are and we don't know where to find the answer, then they're always 2 steps ahead where we are. We never find the answer. So that kind of can go that way too. So you're in a perfect place. You will find an answer for this client. I promise you that. So if we're looking for the genesis, what's actually causing the problem, we want to use what we know about the body to help us strategically think through where to find the genesis. And then we figure out what to do about it. We got to find the genesis first. And that is one of the places where I've paused you guys in the past when you ask questions, because you're asking me about a symptom of the referral pain. And we could talk about that forever, but we want to get to what the genesis is. So a couple ways to find that. First, as I was starting to say, when you know what the body's doing, You want to always be able to answer, what's the impact of what that body's doing on the body's alignment and function? What's the impact of that? So as I'm hearing you say things like, and I'm only using these as examples, as I'm hearing you say things like, well, she sits and she side sleeps and she this and she that, whatever the thing is that we're noticing that our clients do, I really want you all to answer for yourself, what's the functional anatomy and mechanical impact of what that thing is that she's doing? It's not the sitting. It's not the sleeping. It's not the yoga. It's not the working out. But however they're doing that thing is creating a response in the body's anatomy. What's that response? And if all goes well and it's all being used in alignment and the way it's designed, the response feels great. When it's not going well, when something isn't being utilized the way it's designed, or when we're not in alignment while we're utilizing it, we will have discomfort. And I know you guys have heard me say that before, but it's helpful to just keep remembering that. That really is a valuable way to think through it. Which means then, and this is why it's valuable, what is the thing that she's doing, asking of her body that she can or can't do? Because sleeping is doable, sitting is doable, yoga is doable, lunges are doable, yoga, like it's all doable. So what is her body being asked to do that it can't do? And then figure out why. And you'll get closer to finding the genesis when you start thinking in that way instead of tick boxing. So I can tell that's landing for you guys because you're taking notes, and I'm happy about that. Each one of those instances is a case-by-case thought process, which is again why I can't give you blanket answers when we're here. You got to look with the body in front of you, and you're doing that, Cheryl. Yeah, like you're doing that. You give us a lot of data. So the impact of long sitting. Well, if I'm sitting for a long time and I'm optimally aligned the way we've been learning in the Sacrum course, then there's very little long-term implication that's negative. I would have fascia and hip flexors to navigate. That's it. And make sure I can recontract hyperextenders of the hip. That's it. For those of you in Sacrum, don't panic. We're literally going over that tomorrow. So it's literally on the docket for tomorrow, the basic muscles. But if I'm not sitting aligned optimally, now I have a whole host of mechanical impacts that does to my axial skeleton, my appendicular skeleton, the weight of my head posture. It creates more duress on soft tissue, muscles, tendons, fascia, right? So the sitting is not a problem, but if it's done out of alignment, it's a bigger problem. Sitting for a long time is like the new smoking. I get that, but I'm from a musculoskeletal position. I don't have that many muscles and joints to renegotiate after I've been sitting myself all day long. I'm sitting in front of a computer right now too, just like you. But if I sit optimally, at the end of the day, I can take care of it. Easy. I can self-treat and take care of it. If I don't sit optimally, I'm uncomfortable at the end of the week. There's a lot more to navigate. So again, the sitting isn't the problem, but how is she sitting? And I heard you say you were working with her on the sitting, and that started to change her symptom responses. It became intermittent instead of long-term. So you're onto something. That's great. Again, we also want to communicate that with our client. Like you want to tell them what the impact is, not just tell them, do this differently, do that differently. I don't care if it's harder for you. Do it on it. Like you don't want to just give them blanket orders. Explain to them why. Why should they bother? What's the benefit for them doing that? It's part of messaging. A couple other things I heard you say was, and I'm just going in order of the notes that you gave. She's worse in the morning and better after she moves. That's a law in the body, actually, that I figured out. When we're structurally out of alignment, and I mean like, the measurements that we do in the method underneath the skin, when we're structurally out of alignment, our pain will be worse in the morning than it is at the end of the day. And the reason is because that structural alignment is a relationship between the bones and the muscles that move them. When we lay down and go to sleep, the muscles don't have to do any moving. They rest. They're supposed to, because our brain has to do other things while we're sleeping, and it can't be doing joint action at the same time. So it's sort of this brilliant formula of sleep. So our muscles go offline, which is great, like they get a break. When we're structurally out of alignment and we have patterns in our muscles that haven't been unwritten in sleep because they're not. If our patterns were unwritten when we slept, the shots method wouldn't exist, right? Like so, because that's how I figured it out. One of the ways. So the pattern is still in the muscles that this is the relationship on what you do functionally in relationship with these bones functionally. And when we go to stand up in the morning, after all the muscle activity has been like whiteboard erased, the pattern is still there and the body has to go and like find its way back into a compensatory, comfortable state of being out of alignment. So it always equals more discomfort in the morning, which is why after you're moving, you feel a little better because your body is actually compensating in that movement. So as we're thinking about your client, you want to know that most of the movement she's doing during the day is compensatory. You got to find it and then repattern what those are because she's out of alignment. You're going to learn how to take care of that. Don't worry. But after you get someone back in alignment, the pattern in their muscles is still there. Even when you put someone back into alignment, even if they see a chiropractor regularly and that type of alignment is offered to them, which I don't recommend for these cases, by the way, it's a different need alignment wise. The structure needs something different. But even if their quote bones are aligned, if the muscles haven't been repatterned, the muscles pull on the bones and they will be pulled back out of alignment, which is another reason I don't recommend chiropractic in these instances. It's a repatterning of the function in the muscles that has to happen. You got to address that because they have been compensating the whole time they've been out of alignment. We know that because the body said so. I'm uncomfortable in the morning. Once I get moving, I feel better. Once I get moving in a compensatory pattern, I feel better in my compensatory pattern, is what the body's saying. So you got to find those patterns and eradicate them. And at night, when folks actually they rest and they feel better and they feel like the pressure's off of them, and then they get up in the morning and they feel hopeful, but then middle of the afternoon into dinner time into evening, they are like, I am uncomfortable. That usually feels hotter if they can put that sensation to it. It feels hotter. It feels irritating. It feels more alarming. Um, by alarming, I mean like red and like emergency bells a little bit. And that is an indication of the function during the day. Something they're doing during the day is causing the problem, not necessarily their alignment, but it could be their patterned compensatory patterns that don't get rewritten even after you align someone. Manual practitioners, babes, I'm talking to you, right? When we put someone on a table and we manhandle them and they look great when they leave, like a cookie cutter, and then they walk themselves right back out, they are creating the pain because the pattern hasn't been rewritten. Again, shots method. That's how I got here because I was like, I worked really well. I did really well. They looked amazing when they left my session. What the hell? Well, because they were still had these patterns in their musculature and soft tissue. So the AM and PM pain means different things. So listen for that with your people because it'll tell you more about how to find the genesis, which is what we're here for. You got to find the source of what's causing the pain and eradicate that. And then you said she's 11 out of 11 hypermobile, but you foam rolled, and I almost had a panic attack. So we know that from a mobility constitution, and if you don't know what that is, please let us train you in that because it's a game changer for function and movement and alignment and being able to hold enough strength and repatterning. And we have it in like 4 or 5 different courses, so you can get that in other things as well. But please learn that because it's a really big eye opener when you're working both manual and movement practices. When we know that someone's hypermobile, they have less integrity in their constitution. That causes a problem for all the reasons I already mentioned. They easily get out of alignment. They're easily out of alignment, and their muscles don't work as strongly. We know this from our lever system masterclass this spring when the body's out of alignment, which means their strength continues to decrease and it becomes a catch-22. Can they still have tightness in their body? Of course. I'm an 11 out of 11. I still have tightness too, but I got to be really thoughtful about what muscle I'm, quote, releasing when there's nothing else holding my joints in integrity. Got to be really thoughtful about that. So I'm not saying you did anything wrong, Cheryl. I'm talking openly to all of us here. When we foam roll or deep tissue anything or dig our thumbs or our elbows in, manual and movement practitioners, I'm talking to all of us equally. You want to be really thoughtful about why. And that answer will come from what's the mechanical impact of doing that on this person's body? What have they been through before they got here? And do they need it? And that's a case by case basis. Cheryl, I don't know. Even as we sit here now, I don't know if your client needed that. I'm not in the room with her. I can't tell that for any of you guys, but I'm asking you to think about it because you could destabilize someone, but they feel great while you're massaging them, or they feel relaxed while they're stretching. And then when they walk out, they're now out of alignment. And we're back to the beginning of what I was sharing today. Now they're out of alignment. And they wake up in the morning and and that's like Groundhog's Day again for their experience in their body. So again, what's the impact on that person's body, and do they need it? And it might be for you, Cheryl, that she did. I can't tell from what you shared, and I don't need to know for sure. But I'm just offering, like, these are the things that I heard and the places that we could find it and the places that we can't. I like that you went, Cheryl, back to you specifically with your client. I like that you went quickly, like more quickly into, well, wait a minute. Maybe the spot's not the thing. Maybe the thing's not the thing. Maybe it's referred from somewhere else. And I would invite you to look at, because it's sacrum centric is usually where the results are, and that's just a blanket statement for all of us, right? And again, there are other practices in the world that say it's C1, C2, others say it's from the feet up. I get it, guys. For me, my success has always been, for all these years, sacrum centric. So if the sacrum's out, the keystone of the entire structure of the body, the entire structure of the body is at risk. That's why I work there. So if the area that's uncomfortable is that close to the sacrum, there's probably something in the sacrum or the axial skeleton that also gets to be addressed. And it might also be alignment based and not muscle based, which again, you're 2 steps from learning that. We literally have.
And I did actually consider the sacrum, but I was like, I don't know what to do about it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not there yet.
Not yet, but you're getting there. Yeah. And yeah, and if I could teach it all to you guys in an hour, I would have, and we would have been longtime acquaintances from years back, because it would have already been delivered. It's the body. I was just thinking about this actually just yesterday. I really think a lot about how I can offer value to you guys, and if it's helpful, if I'm being clear enough or too vague. Like I really think about that a lot. And I recommend we all do that. Are you being clear enough or too vague with your clients? Right? Like, not that you're my clients right now, but I'm in service to you. We're in service to our clients. Are we being clear or are we being too vague? And I was thinking about this the other day, and I thought, there's just other places where the answer is just more black and white. The answer is just more cut and dry. Not in our industry, but in other industries, like, people who are teaching other things online. There's a certain way to, position the fabric on the sewing machine. There's a particular way to change this thing in a car engine. Like, it's just a little bit more black and white. And so I started wondering, like, am I making it complicated? And I was like, Gina, body. Like, it's the human body. You're never going to know, none of us is ever going to know everything we need to know about the human body before we leave this planet. So how could it be black and white? There are some practices that get you there more efficiently, for sure. I believe our method is one of them, absolutely. But we do need to just stay in the game, guys. If you've chosen the body as your muse, it's not going to be a place, I really don't believe this. 31 years in, it's still not that for me. It's just not going to be a place where you're going to have all the answers all the time, and it's going to be, you don't even have to think about it. It's not rote memory, really, when it comes to the body. Every single human that comes to you has a different constitution, a different history, and different complexities that they bring to the table. And compensatory patterns are as varied as there are options in the body. Never going to learn them all. So I appreciate you guys being so persistent and coming back week after week. And I want you to know I do take myself to task. Like, can I make it easier for them? And it's just the nature of what we've chosen. So as long as, I reminded myself, gee, relax. You chose the body. You didn't choose the car engine. Okay, okay, okay. That's right. That's right. That's right. I just got a little, I got a little in a moment there, right? However, that said, the more you know your anatomy and the more clinical practice you give to a unified way of working, meaning you don't just try a whole bunch of stuff and stick, throw spaghetti at the wall and hope it sticks, but you keep taking yourself to task and you keep trying, there will be a time where it feels more effortless. I feel like I am like that with my clients, and still I have to listen to every word they say when they walk in. It's like a new body all over again. And I'll just share this too. I was at a corporate health fair yesterday offering structural assessments to, their corporate. Amazing what's happening, by the way, guys. We went from corporate doesn't care about you to everybody works from home to now when you come back to the office, you're treated like you deserve to be treated. It was so wonderful to see how it's all come, full
Nice.
circle. So I was really happy to be part of that. And I gave, for hours, just measurements, shots method measurements, just over and over and over and over again. And I was giving very brief explanations to folks about what the implications were of these structural measurements that I was offering them. And they were like, yeah, I do have that in my body. Oh yeah, I thought I just had to live with that. I'm like, no, 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 you don't. And I'm happy that I got to share that with you. You're not making it up, and here's where it is. My point in sharing that with you is I am more confident now when I'm measuring someone, even who's a stranger, that I can solve it for them. So it does take practice and you get there for sure. And I still don't know enough about them, even though I measured them, to have an accurate treatment plan yet. It's never like they come in, you talk for 5 minutes and you get going. If you're still working like that, it's probably because you don't know what to ask. You don't know what all the implications mean. But when you ask more questions, we talk about this in our mastery track, that when you ask more questions, your subjective part of your intake becomes so rich that there's more talking and less doing and better results. It's really weird how it flips. When I was in massage therapy school, it's sweat labor. You're physically working out for an hour while someone's passive on the table, and you get to talk fast so that they can, quote, get all the minutes on the table, change and then get on the table kind of quick. I remember those days. I worked them for a long time. I still give a massage here and there, but I don't create results when I do that. Those are the clients that get off the table and they're like, oh, that was great. Oh man, I wish my neck pain would go away though. And every time I heard that, it was like nails on a chalkboard. I was like, "Ugh, I hate that when they say that. I want them to be pain-free when they leave here and come back when they can enjoy their massage instead of need their massage." So I promise you, when I tell you the formula's flipped, it is. You ask more questions at the beginning, do less work, and get greater results if what you're doing is orthopedic type results. If that's the work you're doing. If you're doing full body massage, my God, give them the full hour, right? Like I want my full hour too every time I'm on a table. So it's a switch of I think habit, how we were all like raised to be the practitioner that we be until we evolved into being expert status, expert level and doing, more high caliber work that we weren't taught in school, quite frankly. And that's okay too. We had to start where we started. Okay, so Cheryl, does that give you any clarity on your client?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, just reiterating the patterns that she currently is in, and breaking it down and seeing where it is, where it lies, where the answer is in what she's doing in her day-to-day life.
Exactly. The most impact you can have on her right now is the repatterning out of her compensatory patterns, because we know she's got a ton of them. We said she wakes up uncomfortable and when she moves, she feels better. Right now, all the repatterning. You have that
Mm-hmm.
complete in your training. You can repattern her and get her to stop making more symptoms by doing that. And then the next thing we'll do is the sacral stabilization. So, and don't underestimate that, especially as a movement person
Mhm.
for her. She needs that for sure.
Yeah.
What do you mean by repatterning? Do you mean changing something that she's doing? Like are you speaking specifically of compensation? Or you just I'm getting the impression it just means like um changing something that's causing the pain, or like if sleeping on the side or doing something specific is causing pain. Is that what you mean by repatterning? Or is
Yeah,
that just okay?
yeah, that's good, Natasha. I like how you described it. So repatterning is one of the touchstones in the shots method, and it's exactly as you said. So that word is from I'm just using that from that training track. And it is largely what you just said. How are people moving? How are people, holding their body in position? The key to repattern, and then what do I do about it? Like, is that optimal based on their alignment? And the key to the repatterning part itself, like why I use that word instead of just posture, is because we know that there's neuroplasticity. This is not news. This is not specific to the shots method, but the shots method knows there's neuroplasticity. So the way someone moves is by habit. And the greatest example I give on that is every time we approach a flight of stairs now in our life, we don't have to consider how to do that. And it's movable, it's dynamic. Think about it. You're one-legged standing, you're ascending, you're balancing, you're doing all kinds of things mechanically in your body to get up a flight of stairs, and we don't even have to think about it anymore because that activity has been patterned in our brain. That's awesome if the way we learned how to do something is functionally correct. If the way we learned how to do something is not functionally correct, that pattern doesn't serve us. And as you brought up, Natasha, when we compensate after an injury or lack of use, or there's a lot of reasons why we would compensate. As soon as we compensate, we create a new pattern. So now it might be in my lifetime that I did learn how to go up a flight of stairs effectively the way I'm designed. But then when I sprained my ankle, I compensated a little bit. And then when I could finally bear weight on that ankle, now I still go up a flight of stairs, but I don't even recognize that I'm heavier on one foot than the other until I analyze my gait or analyze the pattern itself. And then you get to repattern that, not just in the body, but in the brain. So when we tell people to move quickly, and this is for you movement people, move your foot here, raise your arm there, put your leg at this, do this, do this. That's all based on different impulses from the nervous system that don't even have to consider the brain. The brain's busy doing other things like blinking your eyes and keeping your heart running. Our quicker movements that we already know how to do and on command can do them, they aren't running through our brain to go down into our body to make the movement anymore. And if we don't know the anatomy, we forget to do that. And then we're just like, well, I told her 3 times, like every week we do downward dog, or every week we do bench presses, or every week we do fill in the blank. Right. The way your body learned how to do it the first time. And then you repeated it. And then that became a more ingrained pattern. So Natasha, that's a bigger sort of expanded version of patterning. You got it. And there's more to it. And I think for movement practitioners, it's important to remember how you're instructing movement. Are you giving places of pause and then realigning them exactly, and then watching them be uncomfortable with that and not freaking out about it? And if you're a manual practitioner, have you even considered it? That the reason they're on your table again is because of how they've patterned themselves through movement in the world. They're literally walking themselves out of alignment, and that's why they have hip pain, back pain, neck pain, etc. So that becomes where I like to say we all meet in the middle as manual and movement practitioners, because the manual practitioners get to consider the movement and functional patterns just as much as the movement practitioners. And the movement practitioners get to consider the design and architecture of the body the same way the manual practitioners do. There's an overlap there for us if we really are looking for the genesis. If we're really looking for the genesis. Otherwise, the clients feel great after their stretch and their workout in the movement section, and they feel great after their body work in the manual section, and the genesis is still there. And they come back again, and then you think that they're great clients, and they are, but we can do better for them. They can come back for other reasons instead of a groundhog experience. Anyway, that was sort of a longer answer, Natasha, but I feel like it's worth it. It's really important. It's one of the reasons it's a touchstone in my method because it just has such a huge impact on results. So thanks for bringing that up for clarity. All right. What are the questions you guys have for me? Please speak about beds, pillows, and sleeping positions, Rhonda types, because Rhonda doesn't share her questions audibly sometimes. Please speak about beds, pillows, and sleeping positions. What would you like to know, Rhonda, about beds, pillows, and sleeping positions? Happy to talk about it.
Well, before Cheryl even brought up the topic, I had written it down earlier in the week because it's been something I've been turning over and thinking about personally in my own life as well as, with my clients. I have one of those beds that you can push a button and the mattress gets firmer or softer. And so I have been firming it up lately and switching pillows madly and for feeling better in the morning and more comfort throughout the night. And I'm curious to hear what you have to say about all these things.
Okay, sure. And what's the effect it's having on your body, Rhonda?
Well, I definitely prefer a firmer bed so that there's less sag on my hips and my low back, less rounding of the low back. That's what I can tell you.
Okay, has it changed any of your discomfort or created any more ease in your body by switching up your mattress and your pillows?
It does. Just being able to change it does. So sometimes I go softer and sometimes I go firmer.
Okay.
Sometimes I want a pillow with more height. Sometimes I want a pillow with less height. I tend to sleep on sides and back. I kind of flip from, one to the next to the other. I'm just curious what your thoughts are, how one sleeps aligned.
Okay, great. And when you say you switch from a larger to a smaller pillow, is that when you switch from side to back sleeping?
Well, I always sleep side and back because I'm like a rotisserie. I stay in the same spot in the bed. So I'm not a flip-flopper, I'm a rotator. And so I'll start on one side, then I'll go to my back, then I go to the other side, then I go back to my back, then I go to my other side. And it goes that way throughout the night. And most cervical orthopedic pillows have a valley in the center of the pillow. And they intend when you turn on your side for you to flip so that you've moved over on the pillow. But I don't do that. So that becomes an issue over time. And so then I'll switch to a bigger pillow or I'll put something under my pillow to give it a little more height, but then I don't want too much height because I'm sleeping on my back too. And it's become a search.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, awesome. So I have some context. So that's great. And Natasha said that sleeping is a huge question on her mind as well, and she's grateful for the exploration. So let's talk about it. Blanket statement, there's no perfect pillow or mattress. And it's not about the mattress or the pillow. It's about what we're doing with our body. What we're doing with our body should be an inside job, not an outside job. Meaning we should have best practices inside of our body and patterns on how to do sleeping and sitting and standing and stairs, and not rely on the stairs need to be different, the pillow needs to be different, the mattress needs to be different. Blanket statement. And there's a variety now. And like you're saying, back in the day, we didn't have mattresses you could inflate. Like, what the heck is this modern gadget thing going on? And for the mattress density part of the conversation, what I'll say is there's two considerations. One is physical preference in the same way that I put types of sheets. Some people like flannel, some people like cotton, some people like bamboo, some people don't mind microfiber. I would die if I was sleeping in microfiber. It's a preference, right? So the same thing goes for what is your pillow filled with and what is your mattress filled with. However, on the second lane of that consideration is what is the impact to your structure when you choose what you're choosing, the density of your mattress, the thickness of your pillow, etc. And I like what you said, Rhonda, that you like the mattress a little more firm now because it takes out the sag. We know, even without looking at anyone's body, sag is not a word that comes in the context of optimal anything. Sag is not a word. If we're sagging our axial skeleton or sagging on our tissues, or that doesn't work. So more density is then, a better practice. It's also important, though, for folks who are hypermobile to have more density, right? They definitely sag easier than other constitutions, and sag doesn't work. And I wouldn't say that they sag. Like, I don't want that to be quoted somewhere on the internet and then come back and haunt me later. But if there's more movement here in between their disc spaces, they're more susceptible for movement if there isn't support to keep them there. That's what I mean. So that would be a more dense situation than in a mattress for a hypermobile constitution. That's tricky then if you're sharing a bed with someone and they're not hypermobile and they have a different preference, and you are hypermobile and you have a different preference. Preferences and then structural needs, those are two different lanes when it comes to apparatus that you sleep with. There's no blanket answer for that. You got to figure it out. When it comes to alignment, though, when you're sleeping, which is universal, everybody's got the same four curves. Everybody's four curves are balanced. Everybody gets to have their four curves balanced no matter what they're doing, including sleep. So if Murph was asleep, his four curves would look like this: sacrum, lumbar, thoracic, cervical, with a cranium that he continually has out of alignment because he wants to embarrass me on the internet. No, poor guy. I shoved him in a suitcase way back in the day, and that's what happened. I was teaching anatomy cross country, and he came out crooked, and I felt guilty, and I still do. That's why I keep him around with no hands. Longer story. Anyway, I digress. What I loved about what you said, Rhonda, is that even though you're a rotisserie sleeper, you never do stomach sleeping. Universally, not a blanket statement, but universally true, is that stomach sleeping is the number one way you can hurt your spine while you sleep. And that's all mobility constitutions, all mattresses across the board. It's a not good thing. You come out looking like Murph. When you lay on your stomach, if this is optimal alignment, supine optimal alignment of the axial skeleton, and the same is true for prone, this is neutral alignment. Forgive his lax arm. This is also neutral alignment of the axial skeleton, cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. That would mean that I would need to have a cutout in my bed where my face would go straight down. Otherwise, I literally look like Murph. That's not good because now I have lateral rotation with weight bearing, and I'm holding it in that position for a long period of time. We talk about sitting at our desk being detrimental, not more than this being detrimental as a sleep posture. So I'm really happy, Rhonda, that you didn't say you stomach sleep, because that's number one on the list for sure. If your clients are stomach sleepers, you got to find a way to get them out of that habit. And that starts to blend over into other places in our Venn diagram, because it's less about musculoskeletal reasons that they sleep like that and more about energetic reasons that they sleep like that. I wrote 2 blogs about that. They're still up on my website if you want to read about how I navigate that with clients. So stomach sleeping, you got to help them stop doing that. And it might also be adjunct to you, adjacent to your lane, not in your scope. Talk to them, hand them an article. You're welcome to share my blog with them, of course. I'm not poaching your clients. I don't live where you live. I'm just saying, like, it's already written. You can just share that information with them. Please don't just copy the blog and put your name on it. That's kind of rude, but you could share what I have and let them know this is a big deal. Because, dear client, you are coming to me with neck pain and low back pain, and I can't get rid of that if you stomach sleep. And that's not a musculoskeletal thing. That might be this other lane thing. So that's also something to consider. But when someone is sleeping in alignment, not on their stomach, what we need to do then is just balance these four curves, which means a pillow underneath the neck, not under the head. What most people do is they put a pillow under their head. That's what we were all, lay your head on the pillow before you go to bed at night, right? That we were like taught that that's what we're supposed to do. It goes back to that conversation about patterning. Is that most balanced for your axial skeleton, or did someone just say we should do that? And so we all started doing that when we were kids and then into college, and then here we are sleeping with neck pain or two rotator cuff injuries or whatever, right? That's not optimally what our body needs, is to have a pillow under our head. A pillow under our head would equal neck flexion. His chin would be out, right? That doesn't work. Same thing with side lying. Side lying still looks like this, equal axial skeleton, which means now my pillow is bigger. It's filling this space because here's the mattress. So now the pillow is filling this space, which is why, Rhonda, your orthopedic pillow has a different size diameter to it for side sleeping versus back sleeping, because they're different spaces to fill. When I'm laying on my back, I need this much space filled, teeny tiny little bit, teeny tiny little bit, teeny tiny little bit. I would say move your pillow in a way that when you're laying on it, you're looking up at the ceiling and not down at the wall in front of you. That's how you know if you're in neck flexion or not, right? When you're side sleeping, it's not a teeny tiny little. Teeny tiny little would only take you to here, which means now your head would come down to the mattress and now you're in lateral flexion. Doesn't work. So the rotisserie sleeping is a little trickier, but I feel like if you got yourself, my belief, I could be wrong, but if you got yourself comfortable while you were sleeping, you wouldn't rotisserie turn as much.
Don't know.
Yep. I feel I think it's like 3 hours and 15 minutes or something when we're asleep in one of the sleep cycles where we don't move. We actually lose our ability to hear and smell in that period of time too. That's why people unfortunately have, in accidents when they're sleeping, they slept right through it kind of thing. Because there is a window in the sleep cycle. I can't remember which one it is right now. I studied it for a little bit of time and I'm not retaining the information right now. But more than this, there's a window of time, several hours, where you don't have mechanical use of your body.
REM?
I don't know what it is. Yeah,
Okay.
I want to guess it and I don't know it, but I know if you looked it up, you could find it. Sleep is a really complex cycle, by the way. They're considering calling it its own system, like cardiovascular system and lymphatic system is a whole system. They're thinking about doing that just for sleep. That's how much goes on in sleep, and they're still learning more and more as we go. So it's worth it to dive in a little bit and know you're not going to get all the answers out of the gate. Like dive in and know that when you're in there, you're going to get this much of a bigger, and that's cool. And so that's what I did with this timing. There's a window of time when we sleep. Gary, you have it?
It's different research, but on average, a person changes position 8 times or more a night. This is the average. You
Right.
shift from one side to the 8 times.
Right. But
So-
those averages, again, on science, who are they? If they're averaging the American person who sleeps with a pillow that's too big, right? They're moving because they're uncomfortable. So
Exactly.
that's,
Yeah.
a little like average of what?
Yeah.
But a different bit of information is that there is a point in all sleep cycles for all bodies, regardless of their mattress, where you don't move and you can't hear or smell.
I think it's REM.
Okay,
I agree
great.
with you.
So how long are we supposed to be in REM? When you're in REM, you're not moving, you're in a held position. When you come out of that cycle, your body's now registering, oh, I feel something and I don't like what I feel. Time to shift. Just like it does when you're awake. So that could be why people move on an average 8 times, because they're not freaking comfortable to start. It's just a thought to consider because it's worth it.
So something between the knees when they're on their side or not?
Yeah, you want to create this alignment when you're on your sides, and notice that his legs, if he had them on, would be distant from each other. You're going to recreate an optimal alignment when you're laying down, when you're sitting, when you're standing. Yep, all the same rules still apply. Just have different apparatus to make it happen.
Okay,
Awesome. Did that answer your question, Rhonda?
somewhat.
Rhonda, are you using a knee pillow?
I do.
Is it the convex? Is it the shaped kind?
No, I have tried various thicknesses of pillows.
Mhm.
I am currently with a maybe a 2-inch piece of foam at this point
Mm.
that goes ankles to knees,
Mm.
kind of halfway up thighs. So
Well,
it
that right.
encompasses the whole leg for the most part.
Mm.
So right there, 2 inches, your feet stand more than 2 inches apart in optimal alignment, Rhonda. That's part of maybe what you need is a session so that someone can walk through and customize it with you for you instead of, just generally talking about it on the internet. But think about it when you're standing, even on Murph, who's a skeleton, an eighth of your size, his legs are more than 2 inches apart from each other. So it's not enough support.
Okay.
Yeah, like use your body's design.
I
Use the
use two
anatomy.
pillows.
Yeah, use your
I
anatomy
use-
to tell you. Cheryl?
I use two pillows between my knees, like probably that much.
Yeah, it depends on the pillow, depends on, right? It depends on the density and how much it squishes down. Optimal alignment in all postures, standing, sitting, and sleeping.
I can't
Okay.
believe how complicated sleeping is.
Mhm.
It used to come naturally.
I know it used to. Yeah, we talk about it actually in some length, Cheryl. I know we just did this in mastery. It's a big deal. Getting someone into a patterned habit after a lifetime of doing it other ways. Again, it's that repatterning. It really only feels complicated, Natasha, because there's other ways that you've already tried, and there's frustration maybe or discomfort, especially with our clients. So it's not really hard. It's all of the what do you get to erase to then bring them back to what's really kind of straight up and simple. That's what makes it feel like it's hard. But then once you get it, you get it. That's the cool thing about it. And you do want to work with each person individually. I have had some of our mastery practitioners say, "Oh, I told my client what to do about sleep." That's not doing it for them. You got to walk them through it because they're going to feel unusual with your suggestion because they've got a memorized sensation about how they've been doing it up until now. So that you got to work through them, work through that with them, which is another suggestion, Rhonda, what I had for you. You could work it out on your own. I'm sure you could, but if it's not landing for you, then there's something in the patterning too that gets to be, included in not just your pillow choice kind of thing. Okay, my friends. Well, that was super fun for me to Q&A with you. Did you guys like the Q&A? Do you like that format? We could do, yeah? Okay, maybe we'll do another Q&A next week. Does that feel right for you? Can you, yeah? Okay, come with questions next week. We'll do another round of Q&A, and we'll just answer we do all the A's for all the Q's. I like that idea. I like Q&A. I like knowing what you guys are working on and how I can support you specifically. I also like telling you what I think you need to know too. So I'm just going to be honest about that. But let's do Q&A for another week. And thank you for being here and bringing those rich questions so that we can all learn together. Community fosters growth. Community learning fosters growth. So I appreciate you contributing to the conversation today. And I will meet you all here, same channel, same station, same time next week. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you.